Welcome to the Have Courage Summit. This is a summit that's dedicated to helping you get out of your own way and to help unleash some of that potential that sits within you. Today, I'm so grateful to welcome Laurie Ruettimann onto the show. So hi there, Laurie.
Hello, how you doing today?
I'm very well. Thanks so much for joining me. For those that may not know you, so Laurie is, first of all, I'm fanboying a little bit because she's got a fantastic podcast called Let's Fix Work, which is absolutely brilliant. But outside of that, she's an ex-HR pro, author, speaker, an entrepreneur, and a direct talker about the world of work as well, which I like a lot. So thank you, Laurie, so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm excited today to talk about courage and work and all things in between.
Lovely. So would you mind, as we get going, just giving a bit of a, maybe expand on that introduction that I gave you, give the listeners a bit more of a insight as to who you are?
Sure. There's nothing more interesting than someone talking about herself, so I can't wait to do that for your audience. I am indeed Laurie Ruettimann, and I always introduce myself because no one ever knows how to spell my name. So I'm blessed with an incredibly long 10-letter last name, but it's all right. I am a former human resources professional. I work for some companies your audience may know, like Pfizer and Monsanto, and then some companies they may not know, like Kemper Insurance and Alberto Culver, just small companies here in America that eventually went on and were acquired or dissolved. And throughout my entire career in human resources, I really saw the underbelly of every organization, and people would always complain to me about their jobs. Even the executives, the people who were making $1 million a year. And I would wonder, God, you're making all this money. What is your problem? And it turns out you can't fix work without fixing yourself. And this is a really important lesson that I've learned over and over and over again. No matter how great your job is, how miserable your job is, unless you fix what's broken within you, you're going to have the same broken experience at work over and over again. So that understanding of work, that it's not about work, it's really about what's happening inside of us, drives me to think about the future of work differently. It drives me to think about human resources differently, about recruiting differently. So that's where I am today, trying to fix broken people, and it's really not easy.
So you picked up a small task there, Laurie. Well done.
Yeah. I mean, we're never going to be perfect, and we're never all going to be fixed, but why are we broken in the same way over and over again, making the same mistakes time after time? I'm all for failure, but let's fail in new and more interesting ways. Let's take those broken things that we've been fighting against for years and wrap them up, or just finish them and move on to new and more interesting battles. That's what I'm all about in 2019, and hopefully for the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's amazing. And is that anything to do with your second book that's coming out in October this year, out of interest?
Yeah. Hopefully it'll come out in October. I'm currently working with publishers right now to get that firmed up. So the publishing industry is very cyclical, and apparently nobody buys the kind of book about work that I'm trying to write after the month of October. So it'll either come out in October of 2019 or March of 2020, when everybody has had their performance review cycle and they're now looking for work. And the book is called Let's Fix Work, and it's really 10 strategies to really reclaim your life and find happiness outside of your career identity.
Oh, fantastic. I'd like to come back actually to your previous point you made around people being broken and actually almost repeatedly going back to the same state somehow. This summit, of course, is all about courage. So would you mind speaking about some of those things that you do see being repeated, whether it be actions or just a lack of accountability or whatever it might be?
Yeah, it's all of it. I think one of the things I see over and over again in the working world is anger, misplaced anger. So people come to work and they're angry and they feel, if only I could, be heard, or if only this person would leave their job and I would be promoted, things would be better. And there's just such vitriol in the workplace, and it's really misplaced because a lot of times we're frustrated with ourselves, we're frustrated with our family of origin stories that have not resolved, that are not in a good place, and we can't quite battle what we need to battle in the appropriate arena. So we take all of that and lump it at work, and then we say things like, I hate my job. Well, of course you hate your job because you hate your life, and there are broken things that you're not addressing. So for me, courage is all about getting to the root of what's really wrong. And if you hate your job, really drilling down and getting quiet and understanding what are the components of the job that you hate, and 9 times out of 10, it's not the job. It's that you hated the decisions that led you to that job, or you hate the relationships that you've had to fake your way through in order to get the job and to get the paycheck. So courage is all about really doing a root cause analysis and being incredibly honest with yourself. And that's really a task of a lifetime. I'm out here doling advice and talking about it because I'm doing it. I'm doing it myself and trying to figure out, why am I always so angry when I work in the world of human resources? And it's because I'm angered by things like injustice. I'm angered by inequality, and I'm angered by it because I've seen it play out in my own life, and I haven't been brave in the right moments. I haven't stood up in the right moments. And so for me, instead of thinking consistently about the past, I'm trying to focus on the future. And when I see inequality and injustice moving forward, I want to make sure I attack it, and I want to make sure I address it. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense. No, it really, really does. No, for me, so I've had some quite interesting challenges the last 18 months. So where I've actually had the courage to actually face up against workplace bullying.
Yeah.
So myself being bullied, but the response, Laurie, which was interesting by my line manager at the time, was, leave it alone. He's got something going on at home. So it's really, so again, at the same time as I totally agree, it's about what we tell ourselves. Sometimes there's a little bit of a, so what am I telling myself after that conversation? So it's quite interesting. Quite interesting.
So I would be curious, when someone is facing their own challenges and they're acting out at work, and that is not uncommon. Bullies are bullies because they're going through something in the world that they're not able to process, and they're taking out their anger on someone else. If you can't do anything about it, it's your responsibility to set a boundary. And I'm curious about how you handled it. For me, when I was in those situations, I would complain and I would whinge and I would just be miserable. And the best thing I could ever do for myself is something that I eventually did, was pull myself out, find new work, find a different career path, find a different way to make a difference. And it's unfortunate that sometimes we cannot seek justice in immediate ways, but there are other ways to protect ourselves, to save our sanity, and to make sure that we're healthy moving forward. So what was your response when you were told that this individual was going through something and leave it alone?
Interestingly and honestly, it was what I thought led to my mental health challenge.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was the tip of the iceberg. Okay. And prior to that, which was interesting, Laurie, I was telling myself on the run up to that for 6 months, you're not good enough. You're going to be passed over. You're not being seen. So again, that's not necessarily true, but it's the stories I was telling myself.
Right.
In the end, I could blame that person, but it wasn't that person. It's what I was telling myself on the route up to that particular trigger point. So how I dealt with it myself was actually exactly as you described. So I found a tribe of people that lifted me up, wanted to make a difference. So it's just that almost tribe within tribe scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You are the chief relationship officer of your own life. And I think this is something that people don't necessarily understand. Like, the currency of life is relationships. So if there's a broken relationship at work, a lot of people don't have the luxury of leaving, the luxury of quitting. So that advice around finding a tribe within a tribe is so good. Finding the people that will lift you up and will have your back in those important moments is absolutely crucial. There are people who will continue to stay in abusive, toxic, negative work environments for a lot of reasons, and it's not necessarily their fault. They may be financially unable to move. They may be just a victim and don't see any other options. But in as much as we, as healthy individuals now, can reach those people and say, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, there are people out there who have your back, make sure you find those individuals who are having the same experience that you've had, or have had that experience years ago and have good advice. Offering encouragement is what we need to do, because we've been through this trial by fire. We know that there's a light at the end of this tunnel. So the fact that you're out there and you're doing the summit is just so brave and so amazing. And I know you're going to change lives through it. So I'm just proud to be part of it.
Well, I'm more than grateful for you to join me, to be honest. So would you mind speaking a little bit? I love that chief relationship officer. It's brilliant, because it's really something there again for me around sort of, there is an accountability element, isn't there? Because it is easy to be the victim and stay in the dark. To step into the light is quite hard.
It is. And for me, when I was working in corporate America and really struggling, I often wondered, like, when is somebody going to come in and swoop in and fix things for me? I worked in human resources and I was looking for an HR lady to kind of come on in and solve my problems. And the truth is, even if I did have an HR person, they would have never solved my problem. I am responsible for taking a swing, for doing my best. And if I have the mindset of a chief relationship officer, I'm prioritizing humans, first of all. I'm looking at people's internal souls and really valuing that. And I think that's really important. I'm humanizing individuals. And I'm also saying, all right, it's important for me to see the individual before the business outcome. And my life changed when I started to view people first and business second, and my business relationships got better. I mean, that's the weird irony. When I stopped thinking about myself as like, uh, I don't know, a corporate arbiter, someone who is out there for the good of the business, and started seeing people as individuals, not only did my relationships improve, but my work output improved, my individual business improved, everything about my life improved. So the chief relationship officer model is just, it's so important to me. And I'm writing about it in my book because I think it's something that people don't consider when they're in the world of work. They think that in order to be a business advocate, they just have to be all business all the time. And that's not how the most successful people get through the world.
What's really intriguing to me that in what you described, Laurie, is there's this, it's almost, we need to be courageous to be ourselves.
Yeah,
The ultimate courage is to be who we are and to show up being that person, which so much of it we're wearing masks or we're hiding behind an element of, who we think we need to be, or wearing the mask of conforming. So does that sort of resonate with you at all from your experiences?
It does. And I don't know that we ever strip away a mask. And how many of us are our true, authentic selves? Very few. I mean, that's the work of a lifetime. Mm-hmm. That's the work of Carl Jung and, Brene Brown and all of these deep thinkers to get us down to our core authentic selves. And I think very few of us get there. But if we can have a mask that closely resembles our authentic self, I would be grateful for that. Or if we can have 6 masks instead of 12, like anything we can do to make forward progress in this world is worthwhile. So I'm all about stripping away the masks or trying to craft a mask that's close to my true self. And I can't expect other people to do it unless I go first. And so I've taken on that responsibility in my life. I know that there are so many individuals out there with children and financial responsibilities and reasons why they can't be authentic. So I take it on and I try to do it as much as I can and set an example so that maybe they can inch a little bit closer. They can get a little bit more authentic. It's not 100%, but maybe it's like 22%. And hopefully I'm helping with that.
It's lovely. Just out of interest, when could you give a couple of examples, or maybe one example where you've been courageous, proper stepped into your vulnerability and gone, I'm doing something, maybe I'm feeling the fear, but I'm going to do it anyway because I really need to do this?
Yeah. I mean, there are superficial examples where I've done it. I am not a natural athlete by any means. My weight has gone up and down my entire adult life. And I really am someone who could sit on the couch and eat a bag of chips and eat crisps and eat cookies and do all that kind of stuff all day long. But I don't know, about 14 years ago, I thought this needs to end. And so I started building a little bit of a fitness regimen in my life. And I started to ask myself, why are all of these people running and doing all these awesome physical challenges? And I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm capable. I bet I could do something cool. And so I enrolled in a challenge to run up the Empire State Building. Okay, that's 86 floors.
Okay.
And I thought, man, that's going to take me all day to do it. And so I trained. I ran on a treadmill on an elliptical machine, and I did the stair stepper at the gym. And it only took me 26 minutes. And I thought, my God, like, this is amazing. Only took me 26 minutes. I bet there's a bigger building out there that I can run up. And there happens to be a big skyscraper in Chicago called the John Hancock, and it's 94 floors. And I thought, well, 94 floors, that'll probably take me a half an hour, 40 minutes. And it takes me 20 minutes. And I've done it 7 years in a row. So some years are a little bit slower, some years are a little bit faster. And there are all different types of people in that stairwell who do that race. There are people who, it benefits a charity for lung health. And there are people out there who are running it who've had lung transplants. And every time I get down on myself and I think, boy, this training is hard and I don't want to do it, I think, oh my God, there's someone with cystic fibrosis who's running up the skyscraper. So what I'm really driving at is that there are all sorts of reasons why I could have stayed on the couch and not really taken a risk and not really been courageous and not tried to scale a skyscraper. But I did it, and I continue to do it, and I will continue to do it as long as I'm physically able. It's the one thing every year where I feel like I've made a really good accomplishment. And it's not just about my physical health, it's about a charity as well. So yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Just out of interest, if you were going to look at trying to take maybe a business risk or maybe a personal risk of some description, but you are sort of weighing it up and going, how do I keep myself well by taking this risk? You know, there's a balance between, okay, I want to do it, but I'm worried I'm going to sort of upset maybe my work-life balance, or I might upset my relationship. Do you have any advice on an approach to maybe stepping over the precipice somehow in that environment?
I do. There's a awesome cognitive trick out there called a pre-mortem, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, something that I've written about, and it's just a little mental game that you play with yourself before you want to do anything. You want to buy a new home, you want to remodel your kitchen, you want to start a new business, you want to leave your spouse, you want to go back to graduate school, whatever it is. You play a game where you ask yourself, how am I going to fail? And you give yourself 2 minutes and you write down all the ways that you're going to fail. Don't go longer than 2 minutes because then it's just torture, right? So you write down all the ways that you're going to fail. The timer goes off. You take a look at that list and you categorize those different glitches, those different failures as rational, irrational, or just completely insane. So you can give yourself a couple different categories, and you can start to work backwards and make a project plan for the failure, the risks that are rational. Like if I'm going to remodel my kitchen, I know one of my ways that I would fail is that I wouldn't stick to a budget. Well, guess what? I can plan for that. I can mitigate that failure so it's not as risky. I can work on creating a budget with outside help. I could, I could plan better. I can save better. There are a lot of ways that I can mitigate that risk. So the pre-mortem is a tool to really understand failure before you even start and plan for failure. And that exercise alone increases your opportunity for success by 30%. So it's something that I do for everything.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great result.
Yeah. It's
you don't get 30% result on many things.
No. And so, big NASA uses it before they do any sort of major launch, major initiative. IBM uses it. GM uses it. Engineers love it because it really helps you understand what are the fault lines, what are the glitches, what are the fractures. And if you want to give yourself a competitive advantage, use a pre-mortem for anything. If you work in human resources and you've got a big software implementation, have your team do a little 2-minute project. Say, how are we going to fail? And then do a Venn diagram and see where you have the failure commonalities line up. And that'll show you what your biggest risks are. It's just such a beautiful, elegant, simple, free tool that you can use. I used it for planning a baby shower. How am I going to, what do you call them? Hen parties? No, that's when you get married. I'm getting all my transatlantic lingo here. Anyway, you could do it for a hen party. You could do it for all kinds of things. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. My British English is off today.
It's fine. I think you're referring to a christening is what I think you mean. Yeah. Yes. But I can imagine it's a hen party. Yeah, a bit messier, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The hen is on the nest. You'll never be able to tell that I lived over there for a long time. So
whereabouts did you live over here?
Oh, I lived in Regent's Park. So,
really?
Yeah. A little posh area. So it was very nice. I didn't pay for it. So it was nice. Yeah.
As we start to wrap up, I'm really intrigued. A lot of what you're talking about, Laurie, for me is there seems to be this thing around stopping as well and giving yourself some space just to get present and allow you almost like your mind to catch up with all the madness around you. Is that seems to be a bit of a theme there? Is that something that speaks to you? Oh.
Yes, I'm a big advocate of mindfulness-based stress reduction, so MBSR here in the States, and I'm just in general a fan of failure. I'm okay with stopping because stopping is not failure, and doing an assessment of where we are, because how are we to know whether or not we're succeeding or failing unless we stop and observe what's going on? Also, stopping gives you the benefit of not making the same mistake over and over again. But it takes practice and it takes courage to stop, and it takes a lot of courage to end things. And so for me, I have a history of ending businesses well before a lot of people think I should have ended them. I've ended blogs, I've ended consulting companies, because I've accomplished what I want to accomplish and I want to move on and do different and unique things. And you don't do that when you're at the bottom of a cycle. You do that when you're at the top of your game. And so for me, ending a company, ending a blog, ending a business relationship at the top is so much nicer than ending it when you're just mired in failure and angst. And so if it helps, I schedule in regular times throughout the year to evaluate my business and evaluate what I'm doing. So I have a quarterly review. I take myself out. I look at what I'm doing. I try to assess where I am, and I make a call on a quarterly basis. Is this going well, or do I need to course correct? And so that quarterly check-in for me is just, it's sacrosanct. I have to do it. So I don't know if that's helpful for your audience.
Yeah, it really isn't. And for me, I've got to say, the last 12 months for me, Laurie, as well, I've deliberately give myself a day per quarter of just go to the beach and just do nothing. And it's amazing. It's amazing what shows up. The realizations and the insights that show up just by stopping is incredible.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, for me, I have a daily planner that I use. I use a workbook. And if you don't mind me sharing the brand,
Please.
It's called Get to Work Workbook. And it's just lovely. And it breaks it down by day, by week, by month. And there's something, and the psychology is there, about writing a daily diary, writing what you need to accomplish, reviewing, scratching things off, preparing for the next day. I really believe that tomorrow begins today. Everything that we do today influences our success and our failure tomorrow, 6 months from now, a week from now. And the art of writing and getting off the iPhone and getting off the stupid calendar system that Apple has set up for you has just been liberating for me. So a daily planner where I write things out has been a lifesaver. And it's also a good tool when I do my quarterly review to go back to physically see what I've accomplished and what I've ignored. I mean, what I've ignored is just as telling. So yeah.
Has anything that you've ever ignored been something you've gone, that could have been game changing, but now it's gone?
All right. So we'll be a little vulnerable here. For many years, I ignored the very wise advice that my husband and I needed a marriage tune-up. We needed to go to therapy. We needed to talk. We needed to communicate better. And so we went starting about a year ago, and we're still going, and it's been game changing. And I'm like, why didn't I do this 5 years? I've been married 16 and a half years. Why didn't I do this 10 years ago? Like, what was I waiting for? And I was afraid of what I would find out, not only about the marriage, but about myself, about how I wasn't meeting my husband's core needs and how I wasn't meeting my own core needs. And so this journey that we've been on the past year, I regret not trying it sooner. So if there's anybody out there who's long-term married like I am, don't be afraid of marriage counseling. It's game-changing. It's revolutionary. And I wish I would have done it years ago.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with that. It's amazing. It's wonderful though, because myself, I'm actually a divorcee, getting married again in 6 months. I'm really excited.
Congratulations. Good for you for being an optimist.
Or just stupid. We'll see what it's going to be.
Who knows?
But no,
the key is not to make the same mistakes the second time, right? And
that's the
that
point.
insight is hard.
That is the point. But what's been amazing for me, in fact, the speaker from yesterday, Laurie, was amazing. And what she spoke about, and so this summit, and I'm going to be very vulnerable now, this summit I invested in without discussing it with my soon-to-be wife. Yeah. And we had a conversation 2 weeks ago at a lovely little pub down on the South Coast. And I just said, Jackie, I just want to let you know I've done this. And she was lovely, but she went, I support you, but why didn't you talk about it? And this wonderful advice yesterday was, agree a number. So between you and your partner, whoever that may be, agree a minimum number. If it goes above, maybe $500 or £250, you can do what you want below that, but anything over that number, have a conversation. And I was just like,
good advice.
So simple, simple. And that could have, I've not been holding on to like the fear too much, but I have been a little bit like, I feel like I've done something wrong. Yeah, and so I had a conversation this afternoon with Jackie, and we've agreed a £250 limit. Completely
I love it.
Done.
Yeah, that's great.
It's such a powerful example of like something so simple.
And then there's no shame. You don't have to walk around with the shame of, did I violate trust? Should I have said something? Now you have a number. You have rules of engagement that are clear, and you can honor that, and you can have a conversation around that. I love that advice. I think that's just brilliant. So yeah,
Yeah,
I need it in my own life. I need to figure out what that number is.
I won't ask you what your one is.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't said it, so we need to.
Well, look, as we wrap, what would be your sort of dream if you could get to the end of 2019? What are some of the things you'd like to see? Like, who or what would you like to see more courageousness around, maybe in the US or maybe on a global basis? Are there certain things that really inspire you?
Yeah, I would like to see, and I have a list that ebbs and flows, but I would like to see more courage around compensation. I think there are a lot of conversations it's funny that we're talking about money, because there's not a lot of conversations that are happening around money, and money is just such a powerful tool and instrument. And we still have situations where women, protected minorities, individuals are earning 60, 70% of what traditional cis heteronormative white men are earning. And so I think more conversation around what people are earning, what they're getting paid. And it takes someone like me, it takes people in positions of power who are earning money to say, this is what I charge, this is what I earn, and starting to break down the taboos around money. So I would love to see conversations around that. I also think conversations about, we talked about being a chief relationship officer, and I talked about my marriage therapy. More conversations about the realities of relationships would be incredibly helpful, because I think even executives who seem to have it all, even powerful couples who seem to be aligned very well, George and Amal Clooney, whoever it is, Bill and Melinda Gates, they work at those relationships. And I think there are secrets, there are nuggets there. And I would like to learn from those individuals who are doing it right, and also understand how hard it is. So I guess it takes me modeling that in my own life and doing that in order to get that in return. And so here we are today. I'm talking about marriage therapy. I would love to see more of those conversations. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I can already see book 3 for 2021. So that's good. That's good news. There you go.
Right. My husband is going to be like, stop talking about me.
Oh, well, look, you've been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for joining me. How can people reach out to you? Which different mediums can they contact you on?
Yeah, I'm an open networker. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all of it. The way to find me, the quickest way, because again, no one can spell my name, is to go to the URL worklifecats.com, because that's what I love. I love work. I love life. I love my cats. And so if you go to worklifecats.com, that'll get you to me.
Fantastic. Look, you've been an absolute joy. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Gary, thank you as well. I appreciate the opportunity.
Take care. All the best. Bye.